Well, we've had a quiet week, which means we have time to sit back and properly look ahead to this round of Championship games. So let's predict round 16. Starting on Friday night at Home Park, we've got Plymouth at home to Watford, two teams who are very different when it comes to their home form and away form. They're decent at home, both pretty bad on the road. Luckily, this time around, Plymouth are at home, and there's just something about Plymouth on a Friday night on the box, which always just makes me feel a little bit more confident that Plymouth can pull out a result. It'll be a tough night for Watford, regardless of Plymouth and their form and their position. Plus, you pair that with Watford's away form, as I say, it's Jekyll and Hyde to their home form. They're outstanding at Vicarage Road, but they've lost 6 games on the road from 8 this season. So Watford's away form is just dreadful, really, comparing it to their home form especially. So you've got to take that into consideration. If this was a 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday afternoon, I'd probably say they'd cancel each other out and maybe it would come to a draw, but there's just something about Plymouth under the lights on a Friday night which makes me think they could nick this one with a dramatic winner. So I'm going to go Plymouth 2, Watford 1. To Saturday then, and to Ashton Gate, Bristol City host Burnley. Another really tough game to predict because you've got two teams here who, simply put, aren't losing games. You know, Burnley have been on a decent run. I think they've only lost one in a ginormous handful of games. Their only loss of late come to Millwall, but they've been in quite a few tight, low-scoring games. Bristol City are the same, barring very, very late defeat and late comeback from Sheffield United. They've had a really good run where they've not lost many games either. So this is a really, really tough one to predict, and I guess a kind of obvious one because I feel like these are two teams who, Bristol City, really good at home. Burnley, not the most convincing, don't create all that much, especially on the road. So I think they'll cancel each other out, and I think there'll be a draw in this game. I can see it being a similar sort of game to the Sheffield United one, other than Burnley won't have quite enough to get that late winner and find the 3 points. So I'm going to go down the middle of this one. I'm going to say both teams will do what they do. They don't lose games. They keep picking up points. Even if it's a draw, that's what I'm going for. Bristol City 1, Burnley 1. To the CBS with Coventry hosting high-flying Sheffield United. Sheffield United, who technically are the best team in the league. They technically have the most points per game. They technically should be top of the league with, of course, the 2 points deduction that they have. They've won the most games in the Championship and just look absolutely solid in every single department. So this is going to be a very, very tough game for Coventry. Sheffield United off the back of 4 wins. I mean, maybe the international break come at a bad time for the Blades, but I still feel like they're just a team who are just the most well-oiled machine in the Championship right now, and it's going to take an unbelievable team, you would say, to stop them. The one hope Coventry could pull is that Sheffield United's 2 defeats did come away from home at 2 difficult places, being the Riverside and Ellen Road, and the CBS can be that sort of a ground which can easily get on top of an away side. So that's the one worry that maybe Sheffield United have. But to be honest, Coventry are not in a great place at all. Now, the draw that they got up at Sunderland previous to the international break was an outstanding point, given all the off-field stuff. And naturally, since the caretakers had a fortnight in charge with the international break, they'll be in a better position, you'd like to think, for this game. But they still don't have a manager. There's still that uncertainty hanging around them. And I still just feel like with all that's going on, Sheffield United are just going to have too much for this Coventry City side. I think they'll put up a fight. They won't get rolled over. They'll make it difficult. I'm absolutely sure of it. I think the really resilient qualities shone through in that game against Sunderland. But I think Sheffield United are a different animal at the moment, home, away, going forwards, defensively. They've got it all. So I'm going to go with a Sheffield United win. Not the usual Sheffield United scoreline that you know I like to go for, 2-0. I do back Coventry to get a goal, but I'm going to go Coventry 1, Sheffield United 2. To Hillsborough, they host Cardiff. It is Sheffield Wednesday, of course, and two teams who are down there and could do with a win. You know, Sheffield Wednesday, up, down, up, down. They've, their last 4 games literally are win, loss, win, loss. It's a flip of a coin with Sheffield Wednesday at the moment. I just don't know what Wednesday team is going to turn up, and you could say the same for Cardiff, really, after a really strong start by Omar Rizza, especially at home. They've lost their last 2, so Cardiff are a tough team to predict as well and aren't as strong on the road as they have been at home. So again, is there enough to justify one team beating the other here? I don't think there is, because I just do not know what either team might serve up on Saturday. So I'm going to go with another draw down the middle once again, but I'm feeling more goals in this one. So I'm going to go Sheffield Wednesday 2, Cardiff City 2. To Ewood Park, and Blackburn host Pompey. Now, this will be a very big game for both teams. Now, Blackburn did get themselves back to winning ways just before the international break, and I think they needed to, off the back of 3 successive defeats. Pompey, on the other hand, themselves back to winning ways after being winless for absolutely ages. But yeah, I still just have a feeling that at Ewood Park, even though Blackburn's form there's dropped off a little bit, I still feel like they'll create enough against Pompey and edge them out here. I mean, it's a really, really important game for Pompey. You know, they need to try and string a couple of good results together and back up their second win of the season, because they didn't back up their first win and it ended up just being a flash in the pan and a bit of a false dawn, and could quite easily happen again if they go to Blackburn and come away with nothing and then go on another winless run. So it's a big, big game for Pompey, and I would love to back them to get something, but I still just feel like Blackburn are a very decent side at home, and maybe that win before the international break has just settled things down a little bit once again. So unfortunately for Pompey, I am going to back Blackburn here, and I'm going to go Blackburn 2, Portsmouth 0. And to Luton next, and the games just keep getting bigger, don't they? You've got 2 teams here, and I saw in the international break this was branded as El Sacico, because quite easily, whichever manager comes out on the losing side of this game could realistically lose their job. I was fully expecting one, if not both of these managers to be gone. I mean, in fact, I did a video at the start of the international break discussing 3 managers who I thought might lose their job, and they're all still there. So kudos to the the board and to the people at the Tottenham football clubs, because no one likes to see anyone lose their job. It might happen after this game. Luton obviously just keep having false dawns. They'll win a game, then they'll go winless in 3 or 4. They're obviously off the back of a terrible 5-1 defeat up at Boro, and Hull are on a winless run that I think stretches to, I think it's 7 or 8 games at this point. They're on a really bad run where it looks like Tim Volter is seriously losing the fans as well, and we know what that the owner at Hull is like in terms of suddenly pulling the trigger. So a giant game for both managers, but I just feel like in a game that might be tense, it might be edgy, I think home advantage could prove decisive in this for Luton Town. So I think they will edge it, and I don't know if it will only delay the inevitable when it comes to Rob Edwards, or it might kickstart that run they've desperately needed from the start. But I am going to back Luton Town to edge this one. I think it'll be a nervy game. They'll find a way, their quality will shine through, and it will be Luton 1, Hull 0, and then who knows what that might mean for Tim Volter. To Millwall now, and on the other side of the table, you could say, they host Sunderland, 2 teams who I think it's safe to say have surprised everybody this season. You know, you look at the rest of the top 8, Sheffield United, Leeds, Burnley, West Brom, Boro, you'd all expect to be up there. Watford as well, I think, deserve credit to say they've exceeded expectations, but I think Millwall and Sunderland are the 2 who have exceeded them even more so, and are both coming in on decent unbeaten runs. Millwall are, of course, the form team in the Championship and are just as concrete as it gets at the Den. Their last 3 games at home have all been wins by 1 goal to 0, and they're just a team who are defensively solid and they find a way to win. Sunderland, on the other hand, the goals have dried up a little bit for Sunderland. I know they drew against Coventry at home, but on the road, away to Preston, they drew 0-0. Away to QPR, they drew 0-0. So I'm not too convinced that this will just be Sunderland getting back to winning ways here. I think Millwall are in fantastic form. Maybe the international break stalled their momentum, but I feel like back at the Den, there's a chance they might get right back on it again. So just with Millwall and Sunderland's recent games, I'm not expecting anything too high scoring, but I think you've got to respect Millwall's form, but also respect Sunderland's fantastic start to the season, and the fact that even when they don't play particularly well, they're not exactly losing games, and neither of these 2 teams are losing games at all, really. So that's why I'm going to go with a draw here. It won't quite be the 1-0 that Millwall have had of late. Sunderland will get a goal, I think, and that's why I'm going to go Millwall 1, Sunderland 1. To the Kazam then, Oxford host the Boro. Now, obviously, as you all know, I've done a Project Boro preview show delving deep into this one in a lot more detail, but to sort of sum up my thoughts, this is a big game for Boro because we've had 2 wins back to back. We've suddenly started scoring goals left, right and centre. 9 goals in our last 2, 12 goals in our last 4. So this Boro team are finally starting to convert their chances, especially on the road. So we've always been a good away side under Michael Carrick, and I think that will prove to be the same here. But the big caveat, of course, is Oxford are outstanding at home, and 15 of their 17 points have come at the Kazam. Now, has that early fast start slightly stalled? I know they won their last home game, but that was against Hull, who were struggling massively. They did lose their first home game at the Kazam this season against Swansea just before that. So I don't know if Oxford are as solid as they were or have quite as much momentum at home as they did before, but I still think it will be a very, very tough game for Boro. But just down to the number of goals that we're scoring at the minute, I am going to back us, albeit we have come out of the international break with some really, really worrying injuries, which might just prevent us from getting quite back to the level we were at before the international break. But I still think we'll just about edge this one. I'm going to go Oxford 1, Boro 2. And to Deepdale next, Preston host Derby County, 2 teams who I think will finish very, very near to one another in the table this season. Preston are a very difficult team to judge. They've sort of took a slight step forward under Paul Heckingbottom, albeit it's not exactly been the giant leap you'd expect. They're still lingering down there in a sort of dangerous area. The winds have dried up of late as well. They're not as bad at home as they are away. They've been much better at home under Heckingbottom, albeit, not too long ago they did lose 3-1 at home to Bristol City. So I have faith in Preston at home, but I don't know at the minute. They seem like they're going through a bit of a lull. And Derby aren't doing too bad. They got a good win at Coventry, so maybe that'll buoy them on to get a win at Preston. They're not a team that are going to create much, but if they get a big chance from a set piece, that might be their big avenue to getting a result here. But quite honestly, I can't really convince myself that either team are going to beat the other at the moment. So I'm going to go down the middle with this one as well and say Preston 1, Derby 1. Next we head to QPR as they host Stoke City, and QPR, as I said, with Luton and Hull, still have the same manager, but might not after this game. This could be do or die for Marty CIFUENTES at home to Stoke City. Now Stoke undefeated in 3. They've only lost 1 of their last 5, and their last away trip was a decent 2-0 win at Ewood Park. So I don't know to what extent this Stoke side are improving under Narcis Palace. I think there is steady improvement without anything spectacular, whereas QPR are absolutely hopeless. They're winless in 11 games, I think it is. They're looking just terribly blunt going forward. They're not scoring many goals at all, and I feel like a bad result at home could really be the nail in the coffin for CIFUENTES. So this is a ginormous game, and although I do feel like QPR are still a decent side defensively, I just believe Stoke will find a way here. I feel like they'll find a way to get the win, whether it's 1-0, 2-0. I don't think it'll be by all that much, but I do feel like Stoke will just come out of this one with the victory. I've gone QPR 0, Stoke City 1, and like I said with Tim Volter, it could be curtains for Marty CIFUENTES. The final game on Saturday is at the Hawthorns, a notably low-scoring ground this season. West Brom host Norwich, and the Hawthorns is not exactly a place to expect goals this season, so yeah, don't be expecting goals down at the Hawthorns. There's only been 3 goals all season, 2 for West Brom, 1 for the opposition. That was Boro in a 1-0 win. Norwich themselves, though, aren't exactly going through a good spell either. They've lost 3 games on the bounce, scoring only once in them 3 games. Their reliance on Borja Sainz and Josh Sargent seems a little bit worrying, because when Sainz isn't banging goals in from here, there and everywhere, there's not much else coming from this Norwich team, and I know they have got injuries, but it's a little bit of a worrying drop-off for Norwich at this moment in time. West Brom aren't exactly on fire either. They had a good win before the international break, but they drew a hell of a lot of games before that. Another team who aren't scoring particularly many goals either. Pairing that with the Hawthorns, which doesn't see goals at all, naturally this is always going to be a low-scoring game, you feel. But again, I can't split either of them. The thought of Norwich going 4 games in a row losing, I just can't see that. That would be quite catastrophic, if I'm honest, for Norwich City. So I feel like they've got to get something. I think they will. Brom, as I say, got a good win previous to the international break, but weren't exactly winning games before that. They were drawing a hell of a lot. So I'm sort of going back to that. I'm going back to that trend. I'm backing a draw. I'm going to go West Brom 1, Norwich 1. And finally, on Sunday, Swansea City host Leeds United. Swansea ticking along rather nicely. Another team who don't score many goals. They don't see many goals in Swansea games, but Leeds United are coming to town, and you just never quite know when Leeds are going to click into gear. I feel like they're a game or two away from just going up into a different gear, and that could be it. Equally at Swansea, they've only scored 7 goals there as the home team. Only conceded 3, which is rather impressive, so that might make it more difficult for Leeds United, but I feel like they've just got so much firepower. They're so incredibly creative. If they're clinical, I think they'll more than create enough to get the victory here. So I did think 1-0 Leeds, because Swansea are a good defensive team at home. So if Leeds don't have the shooting boots on, I was going to say a 1-0 win for Leeds, but on the other hand, I just have a feeling this could be the time they start to really rally. So I am going to go with a little bit more of a convincing win. I'm going to go Swansea 0, Leeds United 2. There are my predictions for this week's round of championship games. Obviously, next week's a 3-game week, so we won't have time between games to predict either next week's midweek games or the weekend games, so it'll have to be the week after that if there's a week gap, which I think there is. So we'll be back to predict not round 17 or 18, round 19 maybe. But what we do on the channel, is we round up every round of championship games regardless. So I will be rounding all these up at some point between now and Tuesday, as long as nothing massive gets in the way, as there is a quick turnaround between games, of course. But if you've enjoyed the video, do hit a like on the video, subscribe for more, and hit the bell too so you never miss when a video drops. Comment below your thoughts on your team, predicting your team's result, or maybe all of the results this weekend, whether you agree with my predictions or not. And until the next one, guys, I'll be back on Sunday night, maybe Monday, to round up this weekend's round of championship games. But until then, do take care, and I'll see you all in the next one.